Last
Like
time
you,
I beat you. Don't play. We
what you
playing
say?
us and I was winning pool. Last time I was
Maybe.
winning. And he go like $50,000. What he say you owe him? Yeah, that out.
Change.
Yeah, it's really handing money for 50. I'm just nosy like everyone else. I'm in a lawsuit too.
You know I have the resilience to go against anybody. Like there's nobody that's doing that. Those are the guys that you would choose not to go against at that point.
You left and went and got a house somewhere else.
Because you started cheating. Yes, sir. For those who don't understand, Tip had some infidelities with a girl who I hired, and that girl is one of the reasons why I got my own house.
It's in the environment, and it's not him individually. Because everybody's greater in their absence than they are in their presence. His aura is strong.
50 Cent just made one move, and suddenly old rumors about T.I., Shikina, and a possible unseen clip are all coming back at once. But this time, it feels different. It started with a post that didn't even stay up long enough for most people to fully process it. And somehow, that made it even more explosive. 50 Cent jumped online and teased what he called a possible surviving T.I. and Tiny documentary. Then, just as quickly, he deleted it. No explanation, no follow-up, just gone. But by then, it was already too late. Because the real shock wasn't just the idea of a documentary. It was what people believed might be inside it. Almost instantly, old rumors that had been buried for years came rushing back to the surface. Conversations started circulating about alleged behind-the-scenes dynamics within T.I.'s inner circle.
Well, it's official. T.I. and Tiny have a huge problem on their hands. And I told y'all this was about to happen. But now, since 50 posted that he's doing the documentary, maybe you believe him. He just posted it this morning. But anybody in the loop knows that T.I. and Tiny have had several allegations of SA.
The kind of whispers that never fully made headlines, but never completely disappeared either. And then one name kept coming up again and again, Shikina Joe. What used to look like a messy friendship fallout between Shekinah and Tiny suddenly started getting re-examined under a completely different lens. Online speculation began suggesting there was more to that story than anyone originally thought. Something deeper, more personal, and possibly more uncomfortable. Some corners of the internet even pushed unverified claims about a possible pregnancy rumor tied to Shekinah.
My cousin had a baby at 50.
That what I'm saying. That COVID vaccine get these women pregnant 6 days. You ain't seen them on the internet.
Be sure.
On the internet. So I mean, I guess
Maybe
I
it was
got
AI.
Maybe
I don't know if I could do that.
I got to get my life back. 35 to 39, I went through a lot of ups and downs. I feel like from 30 to 35, I went through some shit.
A theory with no confirmed evidence, but one that spread fast enough to get people paying attention. To be clear, none of these claims have been proven, but that hasn't stopped the conversation from growing louder. Because now there's a new factor in the mix, 50 Cent. And if there's one thing people know about 50, it's that he doesn't randomly hint at something this serious without a reason, especially not after what he pulled off before. So now the question isn't just about old rumors anymore. It's about whether 50 is sitting on something real, something visual, something that could take everything people thought they knew and flip it completely. The moment that triggered all of this happened in early March 2026, and it was over almost as quickly as it began. 50 Cent posted an image referencing a project tied to surviving T.I., a title that immediately caught attention because of what it implied. This wasn't framed like entertainment. It felt deliberate, almost investigative.
On T.I. and Tiny.
Is that his go-to now? Documentary?
That's his go-to. What's your take?
Seems like games only black people play.
Think that 50 will actually do a documentary on T.I. and Tiny?
Listen, 50, again, he's rich and got time. So, he possibly could do whatever.
But it was the caption that really set things off. Instead of keeping it vague, 50 took a direct shot. He referenced past allegations surrounding T.I. and Tiny, warned that there were multiple claims people hadn't forgotten about, and even suggested that T.I. might want to start thinking about serious crisis management. Then came the part that made people stop scrolling. 50 compared this exact moment to how he moved before the release of his Diddy-related project, a situation where he stayed quiet publicly only to later drop something that pulled massive attention and headlines. That comparison didn't feel sloppy. It felt like a signal. And then, just like that, the post was gone. Deleted. No clarification, no denial, nothing. But if the goal was to erase it, it had the opposite effect. Screenshots spread across every major platform within minutes. Blogs picked it up. Reaction channels started breaking it down. And suddenly, a post that barely existed was now everywhere. That's when the internet did what it always does best. It started connecting dots.
Documentary about her and T.I. 50 shared a post about a project and announced that it's coming soon. Alongside the post, he sent a very direct message to T.I., reminding him how quiet he got before his other big project about Puffy. 50 said, "I hope this doesn't mess up your promo tour. They're going to ask you about your 20 things. You might want to talk to a PR."
Old interviews got clipped. Past live streams resurfaced. Forgotten moments between Shikina, Tiny, and T.I. started circulating again with fresh attention. And before long, Shekinah's name wasn't just part of the conversation. It was at the center of it. Because people weren't just asking what 50 meant anymore. They were asking what he might actually have. What's happening now didn't come out of nowhere. This tension has been building, and it started over something that at first didn't seem all that serious. T.I. publicly claimed that 50 Cent had agreed to a versus battle and then suddenly acted like the conversation never happened. That alone raised eyebrows because versus isn't just about music. It's about legacy, respect, and who really holds weight in the culture. At first, it felt like typical back and forth. But then, T.I. leaned into it. In interviews and podcast appearances, he didn't just question the situation. He questioned why 50 was avoiding the moment, hinting that he didn't want that kind of direct comparison on a public stage. That's when things started shifting because instead of letting it stay competitive, it became personal.
Okay, so first, it was really about celebrating each other's catalog. Me and that nigga talk back there, bro. This shit, I ain't just called a nigga out the blue. Me and that nigga talk back there.
You talking about you were 50?
Yeah, man, we talk about this shit, man. This shit just come out of nowhere. I said, shit, what you think about this? He like, shit, you wanna do that shit? I said, yeah. He was like, all right, cool. So shit. And I told him, I said, well, I'm gonna jump out there first, and then you just gonna jump out there and we'll line it up. Wow. And he said, all right. Then that's what it was about. You know what I'm saying? Now, it about, oh, you playing? Okay, you gonna play. All right, cool.
T.I. responded the way artists traditionally do, through music. One track turned into multiple. Diss records started stacking up, each one more direct than the last. And then it expanded beyond him. His son stepped in. Now it wasn't just a rap disagreement. It felt like a family standing behind a narrative, reinforcing the idea that 50 had something to prove. But 50 didn't take the bait. He didn't respond with a verse, no diss track, no studio reply. Instead, he did something far more calculated. He stayed quiet publicly. And behind that silence, the tone completely changed. Because when 50 doesn't respond right away, it usually means he's not looking for a quick win. He's looking for leverage. Instead of rapping back, he shifted into a different lane entirely, one that doesn't rely on opinions or punchlines, but on information. And that's the part that has people paying attention now. Because if this was just music, it would have stayed in the music. But it didn't. It turned into something else. And whatever 50 started looking into behind the scenes, it's clearly bigger than a versus battle. To understand why this situation feels different, you have to look at how 50 Cent has been moving lately, especially outside of music. Because this isn't the first time he's taken a situation and turned it into something much bigger than entertainment. Over the past few years, 50 has quietly built a reputation for stepping into documentary-style storytelling, but not in a safe or surface-level way. His projects tend to focus on real situations, real people, and real controversies. And more importantly, they come with receipts. We're talking about insider accounts, people speaking on experiences they hadn't shared publicly before, and footage that adds context to stories most people thought they already understood. That's what makes his approach different. He doesn't just comment on situations, he reframes them. One of his recent projects pulled massive attention almost immediately after release, proving there's a real audience for this kind of content when it's done right. And it showed something else too. 50 understands timing. He knows when to go quiet. He knows when to let speculation build. And he knows exactly when to drop something that shifts the entire conversation. What makes this even more unpredictable is that he's not limited by traditional platforms. He's hinted more than once that he can release content however he wants, whether that's through a major network or directly to the audience. No filters, no delays, just impact. So when someone like that casually brings up the idea of a project tied to T.I. and then deletes it without explanation, people don't see it as a joke. They see it as a setup because the pattern is already there. Build tension, disappear, then come back with something no one was fully prepared for. And now, with everything already circulating, the past allegations, the public fallout, the resurfacing rumors, the situation feels like it's lining up for that exact kind of moment. Which is why people aren't just watching what 50 says next, they're watching what he doesn't say.
I'm gonna ask you about your 20 things you might want to talk to a PR person. Underneath a post about it, Tiny left a comment. In her comment, she wrote, "The desperation is embarrassing." She clearly believes the talk about a new project is just a way for him to get attention for himself. But before you go, I want to know, do you think 50 is a good...
Long before her name started trending again, Shikina Joe was known as one of the closest people in Tiny's life. Not just a friend, a constant presence. They built a public image around that bond. From reality TV appearances to social media, their relationship looked unshakable. Shikina wasn't just in the background. She was part of the inner circle, trusted and visible. Which is why, when everything fell apart, it didn't feel normal. It felt sudden, messy, and unusually public. At first, it looked like a typical friendship breakdown. But then Shikina went live, emotional, frustrated, and clearly holding on to things she hadn't said before. And what she revealed caught people off guard. She questioned Tiny's loyalty, suggesting that the friendship wasn't as real as it had been portrayed for years. That alone was enough to spark conversation.
I don't have a good hand. You gotta go to me. You and Erica cheat.
Baby getting her hair. Man, we don't never cheat. We just beat all the time.
Do is cheat. Oh, now last time, baby, you didn't beat. You look at Bobby. Yes, she be cheating, Bobby.
No, Bobby.
But she didn't stop there. She also made comments about T.I., describing behavior behind the scenes that she felt crossed lines and left her uncomfortable. She didn't go into every detail, but she said enough to shift how people viewed their dynamic. Suddenly, the image people had been shown didn't fully match what was being described. Then came the timing, because all of this unfolded while separate controversies involving T.I. and Tiny were already starting to gain attention. Outside accusations were being discussed publicly, and the pressure around their names was building. That overlap made everything feel heavier. What could have been dismissed as a personal fallout started to look like it might be connected to something bigger, or at least happening within the same environment. And then, just as quickly as it escalated, the relationship was over. No resolution, no clear explanation, just distance. Since then, fans have kept going back to those moments, trying to piece together what actually happened behind closed doors because it never fully made sense. And when a story has gaps like that, people tend to fill them, which is exactly what started happening next. Once the fallout became public, it didn't take long for speculation to take over. Clips were reposted, old statements were reanalyzed, and online conversations started connecting dots that were never officially connected in the first place. Some of those theories went further than others. There were claims suggesting that Shikina's relationship with T.I. may have been more complicated than what was shown publicly. Not just tension, but something deeper, something personal. And then came the most extreme version of that narrative. Unverified rumors began circulating online suggesting a possible pregnancy involving Shikina, a claim that spread quickly across blogs and comment sections despite having no confirmed evidence to support it. It's important to separate what's known from what's assumed.
Liz, of something you don't know nothing about. I went over there trying to fucking hump like a bunny to get to the top. Bitch, I work these hands to get to the top. Okay? So I really would appreciate if you stop dick on me I ain't never had. And you might have been inside the dick because, ooh, he's T.I. 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 Baby, he ain't God. The fuck is you talking about?
Because as of now, there are no credible reports, no documented proof, and no verified sources confirming those claims. But in today's media environment, that distinction doesn't always slow things down because perception moves faster than verification. Once a narrative starts gaining traction, especially one tied to people already in the spotlight, it takes on a life of its own. And the more it gets repeated, the more real it starts to feel to the audience watching it unfold. That's where the situation becomes complicated. Because even if something isn't proven, putting it in front of millions of people, especially in a documentary format, can give it weight. It can shift how past events are interpreted. It can change how relationships are viewed, and it can turn unanswered questions into widely accepted assumptions. So if a project like the 150 hinted at actually revisits these moments, especially the fallout between Shikina and Tiny, it won't just remind people of what happened. It could redefine what they think happened. And once that shift takes place, it's almost impossible to reverse. While rumors and online theories continue to circulate, there's a separate layer to this story that doesn't rely on speculation, and that's the legal history that's already been documented. Over the past few years, multiple individuals came forward with allegations involving T.I. and Tiny, with claims that stretched across different states and spanned a long period of time. These weren't isolated stories surfacing at once. They were presented collectively, drawing attention because of the volume and the consistency in timelines being discussed. The accusations themselves were serious, and they quickly became national headlines when they first surfaced. Legal representatives held public briefings, and for a moment it seemed like the situation could escalate into a prolonged court battle. But the legal outcome didn't unfold the way many expected. One of the major civil cases was eventually dismissed, not because every claim was fully examined in court, but because of legal timing issues tied to how long ago the alleged incidents took place. That distinction mattered, but it also left a sense that the full story was never completely explored in a legal setting. Throughout all of this, T.I. has remained consistent in his response. He has publicly denied the allegations and maintained that any interactions described were consensual and involved adults. He pushed back strongly against the narrative being built around him, making it clear that he viewed the claims as false and damaging. Then came his countermove. T.I. filed a defamation lawsuit against one of the individuals who had accused him, shifting the situation from defense to offense. Instead of only responding to allegations, he took legal action to challenge them directly. That lawsuit is now heading toward a courtroom, and that's where everything starts to converge. Because with a trial date approaching, attention is naturally returning to a situation that had quieted down over time. Old headlines are being revisited, past statements are being replayed, and the closer it gets, the more intense the spotlight becomes, which makes the current timing feel impossible to ignore. As it stands, T.I.'s defamation case is expected to move forward in June 2026, a date that's already starting to pull public focus back onto everything surrounding his name. Legal battles like this don't just stay in courtrooms. They spill into headlines, social media discussions, and public opinion. Every detail, every update, every argument has the potential to reshape how the situation is viewed in real time. And that's exactly why the timing of 50 Cent's move stands out. Because just as attention is beginning to build again, he introduces the idea of a documentary. Not a direct accusation, not a full release, just a hint. But that hint was enough. Even without confirmed footage, even without a trailer, even without a release date, the conversation has already taken off. People are revisiting old clips, reanalyzing past relationships, and questioning things they hadn't thought about in years. In a way, the impact has already started and nothing has officially dropped. That's what makes it feel strategic, because adding this kind of pressure right before a legal case reaches a critical stage doesn't just create noise. It shapes the environment around it. It influences what people are paying attention to, what narratives are being discussed, and what questions are being asked. And if there really is unreleased material tied to any of this, especially involving people who were once close to the situation, then the stakes become even higher. Because at that point, it's no longer just about what's been said before. It's about what hasn't been seen yet. And if something new enters the conversation at the wrong moment, this situation could escalate faster than anyone expects. In the end, the most interesting part of all this is what hasn't actually happened yet. The post is gone, deleted like it was never meant to stay up in the first place. But the impact didn't leave with it. Because once something like that hits the internet, even for a moment, it takes on a life of its own. Screenshots spread, conversations start, and suddenly something that lasted seconds turns into days of speculation. Now everything feels like it's resurfacing at once. Old interviews are being rewatched. Past fallouts are being questioned again. Names that hadn't been mentioned in years are suddenly back in headlines. And the gaps in the story, the parts that were never fully explained, are getting more attention than ever. And yet, despite all of that, there's still no confirmed documentary. No official announcement, no release date, no footage, and most importantly, no actual clip. At least not yet. But that's what makes this moment so effective. Because 50 Cent didn't need to drop anything to get people watching. He didn't need a trailer or a rollout, or even a second post. All it took was a suggestion. And if there's one thing 50 has proven over time, it's that he understands exactly how to use timing, silence, and curiosity to his advantage. He knows how to let the audience build the tension for him, how to turn a question into momentum. So now everything sits in that uncomfortable space between rumor and reality, where people aren't sure what's true, but they're paying attention anyway. And that leaves one question hanging over everything. Is this just another moment of online trolling that got out of control? Or is there actually something being prepared behind the scenes, something that hasn't been shown yet, but could change the entire conversation the second it does? Because if history has shown anything, it's that silence like this usually doesn't stay quiet for long. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like this video to support the channel. Subscribe to Holly Hype TV for the latest updates, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Until next time, peace out.